everybody, my name is Kay and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to talk to you about all things crimping. So I first wanted to start off by saying that I have a lot of people ask me how I style my wigs, what I do to my wigs, all that kind of stuff, and I made a couple of videos showing how I style my wigs on my TikTok. Hello? Mellow. Get out of there. I'm filming. Can't have anything with these cats. And everybody kind of has asked me how I do my wigs, and so I wanted to make a full video kind of explaining one of the most important parts to me from how I style my wigs, which is how to crimp a wig. I've noticed that there's a lot of controversy, not really controversy, but there's a lot of different opinions about wig crimping online, especially on TikTok and in the wig styling community, with a lot of people not knowing how to do crimping and all that kind of stuff. So first I wanted to share my experiences with crimping and how I crimp now versus how I crimp when I first started, and kind of what it all is, because some people who are new to cosplay don't even understand what crimping is or how to crimp a wig, and I want to make sure that I explain what it is so that if you decide to do this for your wigs, one, you know how, and two, you understand why you're doing it. First off, I'm going to get started with a little bit of my cosplay background and a little bit of kind of when I first started cosplaying. I remember when I first started cosplaying, I was brand new to it, didn't know anything about how to style a wig. I remember when my first wig came in, which was my Chuya wig, I literally took it out of the bag and didn't realize that they didn't come styled. I thought you would take it out of the bag and it would just be ready to put on your head and look great, and that was a rude awakening for me to figure out that no, you actually have to style a wig for it to look okay on your head. You don't have to style a wig to be a cosplayer, but I didn't realize that they didn't come unstyled, and I know a lot of people do want to style wigs or want to learn, so that's kind of why I make this video. But anyway, and I remember being like, okay, now I need to figure out how to style a wig. I looked up some things, found the supplies I needed, but then I found out about something called crimping. The first ever wig I tried to crimp was a Femme Sukuna wig, and it was a Femme Sukuna / Femme Itadori wig, and I remember not understanding why I was crimping it and doing it very poorly and not doing it section by section and just being really confused. And the longer it went on, the more and more confused I was about crimping wigs and how to do it, to the point I just didn't crimp wigs anymore. I had learned from someone who I was friends with in the cosplay community at the time, and they basically taught me how to tease a wig, and that is kind of the direction I took when it came to styling after that, just because I didn't understand crimping. Every time I crimped, it never looked right, it never turned out right, there were crimp marks and I didn't like it, so I just went from crimping to strictly teasing all of my wigs. It wasn't until I continued doing some deeper research on crimping and figuring out how to actually crimp a wig, and had my first super long wig that I wanted to make sure was crimped because of detangling reasons, that I actually figured out why crimping was important and why cosplayers do it so often. What is crimping a wig? That, I feel like knowing why people are crimping wigs is super important as well. So I wrote some notes down that I'm going to go with you guys today, and the first one I'm going to go over is, what is crimping a wig? Crimping a wig is a styling technique. The purpose of crimping a wig is to add texture to the wig, to make the wig easier to style, more realistic fibers, less shiny, to hide wefts, and to hold wig shape. Crimping a wig also helps with tangles in long wigs, and people crimp wigs to break down the texture and the wefts to make the fibers easier to control and work with. So the way I want to kind of explain it, a crimped wig's fibers are easier to manipulate because they have been broken. Wigs are plastic. Wigs are made out of synthetic hair. The ones that cosplayers use are made out of plastic and synthetic hair. The way you mold plastic is by heating it up and cooling it down. That's why when people talk about beginning styling techniques, it's make sure that when you heat your fibers up, you hold it in place, because that's what actually sets the wig into its style. By crimping your wig first, you're breaking down those fibers, which makes it easier to put certain strands in certain areas because there's not so much tension holding each individual fiber together. The reason why crimping wigs is something that I like doing now more than just teasing wigs is because detangling, that's my biggest thing. If you ever see a long wig on me that especially is not just a super short cut, if you see a longer wig on me, it's been crimped, because detangling purposes is a huge thing for crimped wigs. It's the reason why I started crimping wigs again in the first place. So the next thing I want to kind of talk about is why I personally crimp my wigs and why I think it's important in my wig styling. Crimping my wigs gives my wigs texture, and it's easier to work with, and I just prefer the texture that crimped wigs have. It makes it easier for me to shape and style, and I just simply like the crimped wig look. So this wig right here is crimped. And one thing I want to bring up is there are people online in the cosplay community who are like, oh, crimped wigs are ugly, crimped wigs are ugly, crimped wigs look bad, and it's because their reasoning is because of visible crimp marks. I'm going to go over exactly how to crimp your wig so that you don't have visible crimp marks but still get the crimp texture, because crimp marks are something that nobody really wants. They don't look great in a lot of people's opinions, and so I know that a lot of people try to avoid crimp marks, and that is one of the reasons why a lot of people out there in the cosplay community don't like crimped wigs, is because of the crimp marks. I wanted to go over the difference between a crimped wig and a non-crimped wig. It's mostly about the texture purposes and the shininess of the hair strands. And a lot of the reason why people crimp or tease wigs and stuff is to get rid of the shininess that wigs come with. Wigs come with a natural shine to them. Again, they are literally made of plastic, so it makes sense why there is a natural shine to a wig that's made of literal plastic, because it's plastic. And so by breaking the fibers down by either teasing your wig or crimping your wig, you can get rid of those like shininess to your wigs. Before we kind of dive into like how to crimp a wig, I want to go over crimping supplies. So me personally, I have two different crimpers. I have a purple one and a blue one. Both are from Amazon. They'll both be linked below. I used the purple one for about 1.5 years, and I've moved on to this blue one just because it's a little bit nicer. It has a better titanium plate and it works a little better, and it gets hotter than the purple one does. And Tin now uses the purple one. Tin now crimps their wigs. They used to never crimp their wigs. They have seen me work on wigs, and now they crimp their wig. So their crimper is now the purple one, which is my old crimper, and I have a brand new blue one that Tin actually bought me as a gift one day, which I was very, very grateful for. Those are the two crimpers that I use personally that I'm going to have linked below. Is a metal comb. The one I use has wider like bracket things and then smaller bracket things on the one comb, so I can use it to comb through. Then the other things I use are hair clips or alligator clips. We have a really pretty pack of multicolor pastel ones that I really like, but you can get any kind of alligator clips from super cheap small metal ones to bigger, thicker ones like what I have. It really depends on your budget and how much, and if you can't afford alligator clips or you can't get your hands on any alligator clips, you can just tie it up into ponytails and like that kind of stuff when it comes to it. So the next thing we're going to go into are the steps on how I crimp my wigs. So I'm currently in Chickadee cosplay, and the video clips that I'm going to be using for this video are from my Chickadee wig and my Ness wig. Ness is not done yet. He's actually just sitting out in the living room crimped and non-styled, but I want to start off by kind of going over how to actually crimp a wig. So I always start off my wigs by putting them on a wig head, which I have on a tripod, and I put the wig on and I put a pin in the very top of its head, and I take the little back straps and I clip it around the front of its neck, and that's just to make sure that it's stabilized and isn't going to go anywhere. When you're crimping or wig styling, you pull on those fibers and you pull on that wig. You don't want every time you pull on that wig for it to fly off the wig head and kind of ruin what you were doing, especially if you have a really, really long wig, because every time that wig flies off that wig stand, that wig's going to get tangled, and that is annoying as crap. I can promise it's annoying. So always make sure your wig is secured on the wig stand whenever you get to that point. It's kind of a couple of things that I do is I go through and I start sectioning my wig off. So it really depends on how long or short the wig is, how big the wefts are, how much hair is in the wig, and I kind of go through and I always start by sectioning off into thirds, kind of fourths, but mostly thirds. So I guess it is fourths. So I section off the bangs part and I put a clip in that, and then I take this and I section back here and I section back here, and then so these are my parts. This is 1, this is 2, the back's 3, and this side is 4. Once I have that, I pick a section to start on. I usually start on one of the two sides, and then I take the clip out and I go to the very last weft, pull it up, and then pin whatever I'm not going to be crimping up. You want kind of thin sections, like maybe 1-inch sections of like maybe a third of an inch thick hair, like less than half an inch thick hair to crimp. The reason why you want smaller sections to crimp is because of crimp marks. The thing that nobody wants on their wigs that are crimped are those visible crimp marks. The smaller the sections you have, the less visible your crimp marks are going to be. And when we start crimping, I'm going to kind of explain to you why that is. So basically, you're going to take your crimper and you're going to take it at the base of the wig at the very top, and you're going to go down and you're going to crimp and crimp and crimp. And the way you can either do it, depending on the fibers, you can either hold it and then release it and hold it and release it and hold it and release it. And then when I get to the very last in fiber on that part, I actually pull and straighten it out. And then I take that same crimper and I go to the very top and I straighten the whole thing with the crimper, and then I put the crimper down and I grab my metal comb and I brush through the hot fibers. My crimper I set to about 200 degrees. 200 degrees is hot. It's not a chilly temperature by any means. If you put your hands on heated plastic that is at 200 degrees, it's gonna hurt your hands. The reason we use a metal comb is because 200 degrees over a long period of time on a plastic comb is going to melt your plastic comb. I've had it happen where I used a plastic comb when I was crimping my wigs and it melted part of the plastic comb into my wig, because it was plastic on plastic. So that's another way I get rid of crimp marks. So in one setting, in one crimped strip, I straighten out the crimp marks with my crimper and I brush through it with a metal comb to get rid of crimp marks. There are billions of different ways to do it, but that is just personally how I do it and how I get rid of any visible crimp marks in my crimped wigs. The next part is to then set that piece aside and go on to the next part. And it's literally just a crimping game at that point. It's literally just section by section. It's crimp, straighten, comb, set aside, crimp, straighten, comb, set aside. And then once you have that section done, I always take an alligator clip it to the section of hair that's been crimped, take the next part down, make my next section, put the uncrimp that I'm not going to work on up top, take my next section, crimp, do the same exact thing, and then I take everything out and I kind of just work my way up all the way until I get to the top of the wig. And then I move on to the next section and I do the same thing, then I move on to the next section, do the same thing, and then I move on to the next section and I do the same thing. And then all of a sudden, I have a crimped wig ready for me to style. The thing that sucks about it the most is the time consumed. It takes a long time to crimp a really long wig. It even takes a moment to crimp a short wig, and there are people out there that just don't want to spend that time. I actually have a wig commission right now where somebody's sending me their wig literally just so I can crimp it because they have issues with mobility in their arms and they want this long wig to be crimped because it helps with tangles. Crimped wigs are way easier to detangle and way easier to not have tangles in than a non-crimped wig. So they want me to crimp this wig for them, and it's because they can't do it, and so that is my wig commission, is something as simple as just crimping somebody else's wig. So if you guys, again, I have in my link tree, I do have wig commissions open, so if you want me to commission, like if you want to commission me for a wig, fill out my like interest form kind of thing and I'll send you a quote. But if you want something as simple as like me crimping your wig that you already own, or wanting me to like, or if you like to style your own wigs and you want to be like, hey, can you just crimp this wig and then send it to me after you're done crimping, I'll do stuff like that for you. So one of the last things I want to go over is because not everyone can crimp a wig, not everybody can afford a crimper, not everybody can do stuff with crimped wigs. So I want to bring up crimping alternatives. The biggest alternative to crimping your wigs is to tease your wigs. Literally all you have to do is either take a fluffy brush or a comb or any kind of brush and section off the hair like you would if you were going to crimp it and back comb it, and then just keep back combing all the sections until your wig looks like a giant puffball, and then you spray it with hairspray, whatever hairspray you got. I use Got2b, but if you have a different hairspray, use that hairspray. You spray it with hairspray and then you hit it with heat. You can either hit it with a hair straightener, you can hit it with a blow dryer. When I tease my wigs, because I do have teased wigs, I've got a couple of examples of teased wigs. Here are some. I have like my Rennie Toshi wig. I actually styled the night before I cosplayed him for the first time a teased wig because I didn't have my crimper with me in the hotel room and he was styled the night before I wore him. And I have a lot of other wigs that are teased and not crimped. Had an issue personally in the past with teased wigs not holding its shape as well. I have crimped wigs that I have crimped and styled, and I take them out of the bag and I put them on my head and they don't look like that they were sitting in a bag for a month. And then I have teased wigs like my Corona wig where I put it on for the first time after not wearing him for multiple months, and it was rough. It was really rough. Like the styling had fallen apart. I wasn't expecting it because I forgot that I had teased him and not crimped him, and it was rough, and I had to basically restyle him on my head, and I didn't love how my Corona had looked that night. And that's just kind of the difference between a teased and crimped wig. But if you can't crimp your wigs, you can tease your wigs. It's ultimately it's your decision, it's up to you, but I just want to be able to give you guys a video informing you on how to crimp your wig because it's something that I do for all my wigs, and I do have a lot of people asking me how I style my wigs. There are new cosplayers out there who were just like me 2 years ago, who walked into this game field of cosplaying and being a part of these fandoms and getting to cosplay your favorite characters, not having any idea how to do a wig. And so I want to be able to give my now 2-year-old learned information that I've been sitting here working on wigs and perfecting them and getting them to the way that I like them and styling them and figuring out how I like to do my wigs. I want to be able to pass on that information to you guys so that when if a new person who has never cosplayed before in their life and they want to style a wig, or someone who's been cosplaying for a while and has never understood crimping like I had for a while, I want to be able to make sure that other people have the information that I didn't have. Happy crimping, happy cosplaying. Hopefully your wigs turn out amazing, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!